DreAllDay.com.
Balloverseas.com, Overseas Basketball Blueprint. Topic here today is for players who are trying to play professional basketball. Academies versus exposure camps versus tryouts. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each, what I would do if I was trying to play ball right now, and just what you need to understand about each one of these. And I'm going to try to be as concise as possible with this, as I usually am. So if you are watching this on video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Let us know what value you've been getting from this content we've been putting out. If you're listening to this on audio, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Let everybody know the value you've been getting from the show, and that is useful because that lets other players know, it lets your friends and associates know there's value here, and it also lets us know that we're giving you something useful that you can use to take your game to the professional level and, make money for your talent. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? All that being said, let's talk about these three things. So first of all, let's just lay out what each one of these is, just in case anybody doesn't know. So when I say an academy, that's a place where you pay a certain amount of money, you travel to wherever the academy happens to be. So academy, let's just say like a school. So they not only train you to actually work on your game and get better, they also have games where you can show your game to people in the professional basketball world. And I'm talking about, when I say academy, let me be clear, I'm talking about the academies that are overseas. So you would go to Italy, or you would go to Spain, or you would go to France or Germany, wherever the academy is, and you would stay there for a certain period of time. I see academies that might be 3 weeks long, some are 3 months, some of them might be a whole year. You live there for that period of time. And during that time, not only are you training every day, but you're also learning about the overseas game. You're being evaluated by people who have connections in the overseas world. There are games where you're playing against teams and players who are already playing overseas. And because you're there already and you're working directly with people who are already connected, they are incentivized to try to get you a playing job playing somewhere overseas because you're already overseas. Why are they incentivized? Because you, first of all, become a success story, so they can use your name and say, yo, Mike came over here in our 3-month program, and now he's playing in France. He's a success story, so that proves to other players that they should come do it, and then that helps their business. Another reason they're incentivized is because they want you to get a deal. I mean, they're not taking on players that they don't think they can help get a job, because that's not going to make them look good. So they're incentivized to look good by helping you get your game in the right place. And because they're training you and working you out every day, they have a really, really good feel. The academy, people who run academies, that is, they have a really, really good feel for if you can actually play or not, because they're seeing you every day. They know how you are in practice. They know your personality. They know your energy. They know how you're interacting with people. They have a really good read on what type of person that you are, both on and off the court. So that's what an academy is. An exposure camp, we talked about these a lot, is an event that's a more short-term thing. Exposure camp could be, I've seen exposure camps that are like 4 or 5 days. A lot of times exposure camp might be 1 or 2 days, where all you do is you show up somewhere temporarily. So this is where you would fly or drive somewhere and you get a hotel usually, because it's that quick. You stay there for whatever length of the camp, 2 days, 3 days. You pay a certain fee for that. You pay for the academy as well. We'll get to that in a minute. And you basically, you do a few drills and then you play in games. That's pretty much what exposure camps are. You do drills maybe at the beginning, and then you're playing in games. You get put on a team with a bunch of people that you never met. And for those 2 or 3 days, you and those guys are your quote unquote team, and y'all play against another team of random people who got put together. And then everybody's trying to show out and show their game and impress, and hopefully they'll get a nice scouting report, get some good game film, get a couple highlights, and maybe even get a job offer on the spot. Because at an exposure camp, the people sitting in the crowd, you might have some random stragglers just watching, but a lot of people in the crowd are coaches, agents, managers, scouts, and owners from professional teams around the world who are looking for talent. So it's like basically a big job fair for basketball players. That's an exposure camp. Now, a tryout is the other type of event we're talking about here. A tryout is usually it's 1 day. It might be more longer than 1 day, but you might have to earn your way from day 1 to day 2. You might have to earn your way into the second day of a tryout. Sometimes tryouts are a little bit longer, where you pay a certain fee. And the whole thing with tryouts is you're trying to get on one specific team. That's the difference with a tryout, or you're trying to get into one specific league. So for example, the G League has a national tryout. So the tryout is only to play in the G League, but there are 30, whatever number of teams there are in the G League. So you might get noticed by any one of the people running a team in the G League, but the tryout is only for the G League. Or if you go to a local G League tryout, which players ask me about all the time, this is the probably cheapest investment of all of them, is the local single team tryout. And sometimes professional teams outside of the G League have these as well, where you pay a small fee. This is usually under $200, and the tryout is usually one day. And there's a whole bunch of people. It's very meat market-ish, meaning everybody's trying to get seen all at the same time, and y'all supposed to be playing team basketball. It's a very challenging environment, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And those are usually a one-day thing where they're just trying to get people for that team. So imagine going to a tryout for one team. It might be some team in the G League, right? Team X in the G League. And there's a local tryout, and there's 200 people at the tryout. Listen, they only got 10 spots on the roster. They got 10 spots on the roster. They already got 9 people under contract. So really, they're only going to sign one guy. And they might already know who that guy is, and he ain't even at the open tryout, but they didn't took all y'all money. I done talked about this already, but this is how a individual team tryout can go. So all that being said, first of all, I'm going to tell you what I would do if I was trying to play professional basketball right now. If I'm coming out of Division III Penn State Altoona, like I did when I graduated college in 2004, and I wanted to play pro basketball right now, given the options that we have today, because mind you, when I was coming out of college, there were no academies and there were no tryouts. There were tryouts. I'm lying. There were tryouts for this league called the ABA. And I think the ABA still exists. It's like semi-pro / minor league basketball, because they don't pay you enough money, or often many teams don't house you for you to even only do that as a job. You might still have a full-time gig, non-basketball, while playing there. But it was a league called the ABA. And I actually went to a tryout or two for them, for like one individual team. The tryout might be like $50, something like that. But the G League tryouts, how they have them now, there was nothing like that then, and there were no academies. So the only option I had was either somebody's going to sign me just straight up, or I had to go to an exposure camp. So that's what I did. I went to a bunch of exposure camps over my career, and I talk about exposure camps a lot. I even wrote a book about exposure camps. When you go to balloverseas.com, you can get it. So if I was coming out now with the options that we have today, I'll tell you the order of what I would do. It's the same order that I already gave you. My first option would be go to an academy. My second choice would be go to an exposure camp. And my last choice, and one that I would probably not do even, I would try to figure out how to do one or two, is going to a tryout. And let me tell you why. The reason why I would go to an academy, if I had a choice right now, is because an academy is a longer period of time. I'm the type of person, when I know that I got game, I know I'm good at what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, I don't care how many other people I got to compete against. The more time that goes by that we all are being seen and evaluated, and we get to show what we can do, the longer that time period is, the more confident I am that people are going to be like, yo, all right, this dude got something. Now, if we only got one day to show what we can do, and it's 200 people all trying to show out, look, I might not get a chance to really show what I can do, because it's 200 people all trying to show their game. We're supposed to be playing a team sport, basketball, but everybody's trying to show out. If you've been to an exposure camp or a tryout, you know how it is, that you might have game but not even get a chance to show it, because everybody's trying to do their thing. Nobody's passing. Nobody's playing selfless basketball. They're playing selfish basketball. And this is just the way that it is. So I would love to go to an academy, because an academy, let's say I'm there for 3 months. All right, now over the course of 3 months, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I ain't gonna bullshit you. If I was running an academy, I tell everybody up front, listen, you here for 3 months. By the end of 3 months, I'll know if you can play or you can't play. So at the end of this 3 months, everybody who signed up here, if you can't play, I'm gonna tell you. And at the end of 3 months, if you can play, you'll probably have a job. That's what it is. That's the deal. And that's why I would like an academy. The long period of time will make it clear to the people running it. I'm saying I'm a player, right? I'm not talking about I'm running an academy. I'm a player. If I sign up for, let's say, 3 months or 6 months at an academy, listen, after 3 months, you're going to know if I can play or not. All right, after 3 months, I would expect to have a job offer, because I know what I can do. And that's just me. Now, if you have that ability and you know that showing what you can do is going to get you a gig, then I would advise you to go to an academy. Now, there are pros and cons to all of these. What is the drawback to going to an academy? Well, the drawback is not actually when you're at the academy. The drawback is the investment to get into an academy, because the cost for you to go somewhere for, let's say, 3 months or 3 weeks or whatever it is, and they're going to house you, they're going to give you all your meals, they provide the facilities and everything. All you do is just pay a fee up front. Everything else is taken care of. All right, that ain't going to be cheap. All right, that might cost you a couple $1,000s. And if you're like me, when I was coming out of college in 2004, I didn't have a couple $1,000s to just throw at an academy. I would have had to get a donation from somebody. I might have had to put up a GoFundMe or something like that. And look, we didn't have GoFundMe back in the day. Maybe ask my parents for it, and shit, my parents probably didn't have it. So I don't know how I would have been able to make that happen. Hopefully I could have did it, but if I was coming out now, my first option, and not even whether I could do it or not financially, my first option is to go to that academy. And another thing I like about academies is that you're actually overseas. I would much rather invest in something where I'm actually overseas. I'm in Europe than going to some exposure camp in fucking Ohio or Chicago or even Vegas. Listen, Vegas ain't overseas. Vegas is Vegas. Vegas in America. I want to go somewhere that's actually overseas because it's much easier for overseas decision makers, the people who could actually sign me, to actually see me and get to know me. And if they want to sign me, look, I'm already in Germany. I'm already in France. I'm already in Italy. I'm already in Greece. All they got to do is fly me from there to wherever they're at. It's much cheaper to travel within Europe, different countries, than it is to travel from the USA to Europe. So my first option, if I was coming out of college right now, would be to go to an academy for every reason that I just gave you. But the biggest challenge of an academy, just so we be clear, is the financial investment. And a lot of times players, you coming out of college, or who comes out of college and got a couple $1,000s laying around to just throw at something? Not me. I don't know about any of y'all, but listen, I was broke when I came out of college. So if you're in that situation, the part you might have to figure out is where do I get that bread from? But if you can get it, I would say go to an academy. Now, my second choice would be an exposure camp. The good thing about exposure camps is, depending on which one you choose, exposure camps do give you the opportunity to get your game seen, and you kind of got to get lucky with exposure camps. That's what I would say about exposure camps. You got to get lucky, because I went to several exposure camps over the course of my career, and some of them was just bad luck. Now, all the camps I went to, let me back up. Sometimes I played well, and there were some camps I went to where I just didn't play well, and I can't blame the camp. But there were also times outside of my performance, and sometimes I had good luck, sometimes I had bad luck. For example, I went to one exposure camp, and I'm 6'4". Now, 6'4" is not super tall for basketball, we all know. But if any of you ever been to a tryout or an exposure camp, you know that being 6'4", you might be the tallest person on the damn team. So they might put you at power forward or center because you're taller than everybody else on the team, but you are a point guard or a shooting guard, but you can't even play guard because you got 3 dudes on the team who are 5'10", and now you can't even do your thing. I know a dude who was like 6'7". He played point guard. I played with this dude. I know he was a point guard. He was 6'7". He went to like a local tryout for like a G League team. And of course they had him playing center because it wasn't but 3 other dudes in the whole tryout who were as tall as he was. And he's like, yo, I didn't even get a chance to show my game because I'm 6'7". I didn't even get to play point guard. So at exposure camps, we're still talking about exposure camps here. Sometimes you have bad luck in that you just don't have a good team. You get put on a team of a bunch of trashy players either who can't play or players who can't play and know that they can't play, or even worse, players who can't play but think they can play. You ever play with somebody who is garbage, but they think they're good, so they don't pass, they're trying to run things, they don't listen to anybody else, they don't even understand what to do. They don't understand setting a screen, they don't understand moving without the ball, they don't understand set a screen, get a screen, they don't understand help side defense, they don't understand calling out a screen so you get picked and your man scores and now it looks like you got scored on. So you run into all types of players like this when you go to a exposure camp or a tryout. The hard, challenging thing about exposure camps and tryouts, as opposed to academies, is that at exposure camps and tryouts, any random motherfucker can sign up. As long as they pay the money, exposure camps and tryouts will take anybody's money. The G League national tryout, not national tryout, the local G League tryouts will take money from anybody. Look, I haven't played a basketball game in 5 years. If I went and tried to sign up for the local tryout for the Miami Heat local team, the G League team, the Miami Heat got, I live in Miami, they would take my money. They wouldn't ask me any questions. They wouldn't say, who are you? How old are you? When's the last time you played? What kind of shape are you in? What are your stats from the last? They wouldn't ask anything. They just say, oh, you got $150? All right, you signed up. Welcome. Welcome to trying out for the NBA. So the challenge with tryouts and exposure camp is that they will take anybody's money. And even though you're a serious player who can actually play, you might be teamed up with 3 people in your club who garbage as shit. And now you got to play with them, and you can't even do your thing because they keep running in your way. You're trying to do a move, they're running behind you, bringing the defender. All these kind of things happen when you go to exposure camps and tryouts because they will let any random straggler in because their main goal is to just take your money. All right, not all of them. There are a few exposure camps who are serious about filtering out who they don't want, and they will actually turn people away. But the majority of exposure camps, and especially tryouts, they will take anybody's money because all they're doing is just grabbing money. And a lot of times, like I already have explained already many times with the G League, those local tryouts they're not really even looking for anybody. They're just saying that they gave an opportunity for people to quote unquote try out for the NBA, and they're just taking your money. All right, that's not a real opportunity. I've already explained that in another video, so please look that video up. So when it comes to exposure camps, now how can you get lucky? I went to an exposure camp once where I had 2 7-footers on my team. Now I'm 6'4". Now on that team, at that exposure camp, I got to play point guard. I was like perfect, and I was slicing motherfuckers up out there because the dudes they had guarding me was like 5'11". I was killing those guys, and I had 2 7-footers. So the great thing about it was there was some space on the court. The 2 7-footers actually were down in the paint playing down low, as opposed to any of you ever been to an exposure camp or tryout where you have bad luck and you got 5 people on your team who all think they're guards. So now you're bringing the ball up. Actually, you got 4 people all trying to bring the ball up. They get mad because they can't bring the ball up. You got players who can't do anything but bring the ball up. They don't know how to play off the ball. They never played off the ball in their lives. So if they can't dribble the ball up the court, they don't know what to do. So they just stand there on the 3-point line. Everybody's standing around the perimeter waiting for the pass. Nobody moving at all. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't, all right, go to a couple tryouts or exposure camps. You will know what I'm talking about. You'll learn very quickly. So it's just luck. That's the challenge with exposure camps and tryouts, is that you have no idea who else is coming. You might be good. You know how to play. You played college ball. You played organized basketball before with a coach. You've been on a team where you have practice every day. You know how to actually play basketball. You have no idea who else is going to be at that camp. And they might be a complete bum who knows nothing, but they had $150. So they came to a tryout, and now you got to play with this guy for the next 3 days, and you stuck with him. That's the challenge with exposure camps and tryouts, and this is why you might end up like me, depending on how long you decide to keep going after it, going to a bunch of them, and half of them you'll actually get a good break like I did with 2 7-footers on my club, and sometimes you might get a break where you got 4 dudes 5'11" on the team. There's only 8 dudes on the roster, and you can't ever get a chance to play point guard even though you're a point guard. So this is the challenge with any kind of tryout or exposure camp. The good thing about tryouts and exposure camp is that the investment is much smaller. It's usually the amount of money that people can come up with. So you might go to an exposure camp, the fee might only be $250. First camp I ever went to was $250. Now, anybody could come up with $250. Even if you don't have it, well, you could borrow that from somebody. $250 is not that much. The local tryout might be $75, might be $50. The G League might be $100. Anybody can come up with that much money if they really need to. I don't care how broke you think you are. If you're watching this right now, you have a smartphone, you got a computer, all right, you can come up with $150. Anybody can come up with $150. Now, $3,000 for an academy, you might not be able to do that. But $150, anybody can do that. So that's why you get so many people at those. And this leads to the other point that I make, to juxtapose the two. The tryouts and exposure camps versus the academy. Because the academy's price is a little bit higher, that let's say is a couple $1,000 to even get into the academy. Then if let's say you live in Virginia and the academy is in Spain, you got to fly from Virginia to Spain. How much does it cost to get a flight from Virginia to Spain? Let me see if I can find it. I'm going to look up on this app right now, a flight from, I don't even know what airport's in Virginia. I don't even know why I chose Virginia, but let's just say, we'll say Norfolk Airport, Norfolk, Virginia to Spain. We're just going to pick any town in Spain. What's in Spain? We'll say Barcelona, Spain. Madrid, that's the first one that came up, Madrid. All right, so I'm gonna say November, I'm gonna say about a month from now, we want a flight. We're gonna make a one-way flight a month from the day that I'm recording this. How much is a flight? I'm looking up the prices right now. You might, I think, let's just say you get a one-way ticket. You don't even get a round trip. You just get yourself a one-way ticket because you don't expect to have to come back. Now, you already put up $3,000 to go to the academy, right? That was a $3,000 fee. They're gonna cover all your meals, but you're gonna need some money in your pocket too, because if you're anything like me, listen, I can't just eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. I need some snacks, I need some chips, I need some candy. I like to eat food at night, things like that. If you're anything like me, that's how I am. I don't know about y'all. Now, flight, cheapest flight I'm seeing, I'm looking on Kayak right now, $630, $709, $850, $880, $1,700. This is how much the flights cost. So that's basically another stack you got to put up. So that's a $4,000 investment. You got $4,000 laying around right now? Some people do. Some people can get it and some people can't. So the good thing about the academy, this is the point that I'm making, is that because the cost is so much higher, it makes it prohibitive that everybody can't go. Which means there will be fewer people at the academy, which means if you can play, that's better for you to really get seen by people who are already overseas, already have connections, and you're already overseas is the best of all worlds. The only challenge, again, within academy is that you got to come up with the bread. If you got the money and you're just asking Dre, what should I do so I can play overseas? Go to N Academy if you have the bread. That's what I would have did. Okay, and this is not a sales pitch for any individual academy. I haven't named one, but that's what I would do, and I think I've explained to you exactly why. So I think I said everything I need to say. That's pretty much it. I didn't really go into tryouts, like individual team tryouts. If I'm trying to play overseas right now, or just to play pro basketball period right now, an individual team tryout, I probably wouldn't even do it. If I had $150 and I see the local G League team, Santa Cruz Warriors, having a tryout, I might do it just to get the experience, just to say that I tried out for the G League team, just to see what it's like. But I'd rather save that $150, keep that $150 in the bank, then let me get another $150 and stack it on top of that. Now I got $300. I'm gonna go to an exposure camp. All right. So for me, academy first option, exposure camp second option, ain't no third option. I don't even want to go to a tryout because I've seen them. I told y'all about them. I tried to warn y'all. Some of y'all gonna go anyway, even though you heard what I said. Some of you won't hear it till after you went and then you realize that you got robbed, and then you'll see the video. But that's what it is. So everybody, if you got any questions about anything I just said here, you can let me know. But I think I laid this out pretty smoothly. But if I missed something, let me know. I'll make another video addressing it. If you haven't yet got this book, The Overseas Basketball Blueprint, I made this book free for you so you can play professional basketball right now. I'll tell you everything you need to get started. Go to balloverseas.com. The book is free. We used to charge $49 for this book on Amazon. We made it free. You can buy it on Amazon if you want. You get it free from us. balloverseas.com. The book is paid for. All you do is cover a small shipping charge. balloverseas.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.